Okay, this series of videos, training videos, are going to be on the tender, the water tender. And right now we're just going to go through and review the equipment and the operational of it. And then the second video will actually be doing those components. But right now we're just going to review the instruments and the equipment in it. So to start off with, we're going to start off with cab. Now, with this truck, of course, you have to have a Class 3 license with a Q, and you have to understand to operate an Easton 13-speed transmission. It's not an easy vehicle to drive, so we do have selections of you folks. You guys know who you are in terms of operating this vehicle. It's not that easy. So that being said, we will go through the pump operation of it, because even though you are not able to drive it, you can assist in hooking it up, and that's why we're going through this. So let's take a look over here in terms of the operation of the pump and so forth. So here we have a rear water valve open or close. This is an electric valve, okay, and it uses a solenoid to open and close this valve over here. So we're just going to take a little bit of a walk so you know where it connects to. This is on and off, and it goes all the way over to here. This valve right here. So all it does is close this pipe inlet or outlet discharge area of this pipe. Okay, so this inlet and outlet, and I use that in terms because it can be used as an inlet and it can be as an outlet. And that's why I use that terminology. But this is the valve to shut it on and off in terms of closing it. Okay, and I'm going to talk about it in terms of how important it is, because you can do some equipment damage when that device is not used correctly. Okay, so this valve is the open and close. Now, if you turn the pump on, and let's go upstairs. I'll just go up right now and I'll show you where the PTO to turn the pump on, and then maybe perhaps I'll give you a better understanding of how this is all going to work. Okay, Jeff, you can hop up there and I'll go on the other side. Okay, so this is the PTO that turns on the pump. Okay, this will activate the pump itself. Now, as you see here, clutch is to, you need to push in the clutch to engage this PTO. Even if you are in neutral, you should still push in the clutch. Okay, this 80 psi, it uses air to shift the PTO. So that being said, generally, if you've driven to the location, your PSI and your air will be up anyway. Okay, it's just like right now, sitting now, the air pressure drops in your tanks. We probably couldn't shift. That's the same thing as out in the fire engines too. In the fire engines, if you right now went in one of the fire engines, generally they all seem to have small leaks. They shouldn't leak, but they generally do. And it uses air to actually shift the PTO. If you haven't got enough air, it won't shift. And that's why that says that. Okay, so clutch again in to shift the PTO. So you're in neutral, you're at stop, you push the clutch in and shift in PTO. That engages the pump. Okay, so now let's go to the pump. Okay, that's tough talking through that. Okay, so here's the pump itself. The PTO has now turned on and activated the pump. The pump is in rotation. Now this is where this comes into very important to know, is that once you're moving water, the pump can be spinning, but once these things here in and out, if you want to discharge water out of this port or out the rear port, you hit out. Okay, water out. Okay, there's a neutral area. There's neutral. If you want water to come in, as you want to suck water in and fill your tank, then you hit in. Okay, and it will go in here or in at the outside port, on the rear port. Okay, there's only two ports on this truck. the side and the rear. Okay, so here's the neutral again. So in and out works on both the side and the rear. Why? Because let's say you're in the proximity of operation where the side works, or you can't work from the side, you can work from the rear. Okay, so that's why you have a port on the side, you also have a port on the rear. Okay, now they also have isolation valves for each area. Okay, so if you want to work from the side, you use this valve to open it. So let's say you're in neutral. Now I want to open this side because I want to use the side. I'll make sure this one's closed. Once again, the general rule of thumb of valves, the handles are in the flow of travel. Okay, as you can see, this is crossways. That means this valve is closed, that leads that way, okay, to the rear. This one's crossways, so it means it's closed. If you want it open, you open the valve like so. Okay? It's in the flow of travel. This is open now. I have my cap off. I either have, and we'll show you this with the other devices, but generally you have your device connected onto here and you're discharging or you're drafting. Now, I'm using this port. This side's closed. This one's open. My valve's in the right position. Let's say I want to discharge. From my PTO is on, that we've connected it in the cab. The pump is in rotation, a power takeoff. Okay, I now hit this out, I'm discharging, I go kaboom. The pump starts pushing the water from gravity feed, drops into the pump, and now it is now pushing out. Okay, I go back into neutral. Okay, now that was discharging. Now if you want to discharge the back, I'll close this valve, I open this valve in rotation. Again, the handle within the flow of travel of the piping, and then I'm going to discharge out there. Once again, the cap has to be off. My appliances or my devices are connected already. I'm ready to discharge. I hit out, and now I am flowing out the back. Okay, I go back into neutral. Now let's say you wanted to suck draft water into your apparatus, not to push it out, but to draft it in. So same thing applies. You have, I'm going to draft from the rear. Let's say we have to back up because we can't get to the side into the pool, but we can get it to the pond or whatever from the rear. So we have the hoses we can connect on. We have the valve that's open. Now basically I want it in. So you hit in. Now it's now sucking water, and now it's going in to the tank itself. Okay, you put it back in neutral. If you want it to come off the side, you close this valve, open this valve open, and we have a hose. Let's say we're dropping from the pond, and we hit in, and now it is now sucking in. Okay, now there's one thing that we want to explain this valve here. When you're in motion and moving, okay, and any time that the pump is running and you're flowing water. For sole example, we know this thing connects to the rear deployment hose. We have this open, we have this water coming out. Okay, so right now it's pushing. If we had this closed, thinking, well, we'll just shut it off as a temp, we don't have to touch any of this and shut this off. By you, because this runs off by the RPMs as you are moving, you can actually damage and blow the pipe. Because there's so much force coming out of this pump out there, and if I close this valve, it can do damage. Okay, so that's why it's important to know that if you're flowing, you're actually moving water out. If you've closed this, and this pump is still engaged out, and you're pushing water, it will blow up the pipe, according to Randy Degenstein. Okay, and so you need to keep this open, or you need to come out here and shift this out to neutral, or stop your PTO and disconnect shut off your PTO so you're not flowing water. Okay. So where's the application of this? This is the application. Let's say you went to go, you're doing a spray bar operation on the rear or the side. Okay, more to the rear, sorry, because this valve only applies to the rear. Okay, so you're going out the rear and you're flowing water. So this would be in the open position. The valve is open. This is in the open position. Okay, and we are in the out position, correct? We're flowing water. We're spraying. Now we're making a turn. We're driving. Okay, we're driving slowly. We're going through. We're spraying the ditch, or we're spraying an area, putting down a wet line. Okay, now we got to turn around. So we decide, well, let's say we don't want to wet this area, but we just want to turn around. So what we do is that we turn off our PTO. Okay, you can't just shut this off like that and leave the PTO running, because now as the RPMs, as you're driving, the RPMs go up, increases the pressure, and now you're going to blow out the back end because you have this valve shut and you're trying to push it somewhere. So your PTO for your pump is kind of like an on and off for your pump. So shut your PTO off. Okay. Why you have this valve on is that now, because you still left all this on, your water can actually still gravity feed, even if you got your pump off, just continue to drain out. So this is why they place this valve in here. They place this valve in here so it would prevent you losing your supply of water while you're making your turnaround. But that can have problems, because if you forget as an operator and you close this and then close your PTO off, your pump off, you could blow the piping. Okay, so you have to shut that off. So this is strictly, purpose of this is so that you don't release your residual water coming from your tank that's from gravity fed when the pump is off. Okay, so that's what that is. So the other thing is this, where it can come into complications. You make your rotation. So you're driving, you decide to turn around, so you shut your pump PTO off, so your pump is not moving. Okay, everything else is left the same. You closed your valve so you're not losing your water from gravity feeding out. Okay, you make your turn. You decide to now reactivate your spray bar. You turn your PTO on, but you forget to open this. All of a sudden you start to rev your engine, your PTO goes up, your pressure builds up, and it's not going anywhere because you forgot to turn this on. You need to flick this on. If you didn't, kaboom. Okay, so you need to remember to turn this back on to allow the water to go flow. Okay, so that's, and we'll show you this while we're moving in actuality. So onward. Okay, so that's the orientation on that switch. This switch is, to get your head wrapped around it, you got to think of the process, and we'll show you that in the next video. Okay, we explained about this, in and out. We explained the discharge here, in and out. The isolation valves here to each device. Okay, let's move on over to here. Cabinet, you have all your hydrant connections for filling. The hydrant gate, your hydrant wrench. Okay, your extra couplings that you have. You have your chocks. You have your spray bar connection, and we'll show you that. Okay, you have also, if you're drafting, you have your coupling screen to connect onto your hoses. You have a short pony hose. The short pony hose is used for deployment into a pool. Okay, you're doing your tender operations, so you can connect this cam lock connections to the side. Okay, or into the rear, as we indicated earlier. It's a short pony hose because you don't want to you want to it won't project enough to shoot it into the pool itself, so you need a little bit of a stream to guidance through this hose into the pool. Okay, you also have a long hose here. Okay, and this long hose is generally used for drafting, or let's say you couldn't get close enough to the pool, you could use this too to reach out to fill up that pool. Okay. Now, as you follow this pipe, here's your rear discharge. Okay, so here's your rear discharge, the same discharge as the side, but it's in the rear. It can go in and it can go out. Okay, once again, you can use the green hose if you're filling up the rear dump. Okay, or you can do a, if it's a further reach, you can hook your blue hose onto it for fill or to draw from here. Okay. This connection here is used for hydrant connection. To connect to the hydrant, you're coming back to the city, or you're coming to a location that you have a hydrant that you don't have to draw, then you can fill. So that's what you're in there. This here already has a vent hole that's established, open all the time. The only time I guess you could perhaps consider to be concerned about it if it was winter operations and it froze, and that vent hole froze. But Captain Hogan hooked up a gooseneck up there in terms of letting air constantly flow in and out. Okay, because if you didn't have air to displace, you could either suck the tank if you're drafting and you would implode the tank, and that's why you need the air. You need to displace them in the air. That's already established up on top. Okay. Here's your hose you can use for your hydrant. Okay, now we just talked about your discharges. Now if you discharge into the pool, you know the pool is a flexible pool, doesn't have a strong wall that you can just lay the hose because you'll just push it down. And that's why you also have here your stand, okay? So the stand is designed so if you pull up on the side, you're filling up the pool, you put your short little pony hard suction on the plate, you can support it. So it's not pushing on the side of the pool because all it'll do, it'll drain away, right? So this is to support that while you're filling the pool. Okay? That's what this is. This truck has, this one stays here. You're familiar with it, with an engine 215 on the county truck. Has two of them for the sink. This one stays here for that purpose for here. Also in here you have a toolkit, you have your pylons and flares. Okay, other fluids for the engine, the anti-freeze coolant, and so forth. Okay, and I believe that's all. Jeff, anything else to add?
I don't think so.
Okay, we'll go on to video 2.